Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We are Baltimore positive. I'm wearing my purple Planet Fitness Pride. We're going to be doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. I have the Maryland Treasures. Hey, this is going to be an art segment. This is going to be fun. Well, these were artist driven from last year. They are now the actual scratch offs. They represent the state. I'll have these at Coco's on the 23rd before the draft. Luke will be drafting. I might be drinking draft beer, draft Red Stripe over there with Marcella. We'll be at Coco's on Thursday. My co-host for Sig can't join me, but he did join me at the baseball game on Wednesday. He's got a farmer's tan now from the seats we had from Curio Wellness. So thank you for the kindness, Wendy, at Curio and Far and Daughter. We do appreciate the tickets. Not these tickets; those are lottery tickets. The tickets when I went to the game Wednesday. Also, our friends at GBMC. I am walking a mile in their shoes. By the time you hear this, I will have done it because I'm about to run out the door and go do it on a lovely 74-degree day in Baltimore. All for sexual abuse and awareness for victims who visit GBMC, where they have one of the most incredible labs in the country, and they help people in trauma, and I'm going to be helping those folks with a walk a mile in their shoes. You can still donate. It's a GBMC. Also, our friends at Farnan and Dermer, who are keeping us cool like Fonzie, like Bruce Springsteen, on these hot days. Call them. Don't let your friggin' AC break on a 95-degree day. Just have them come out, do a spring cleaning. They're good people. They're our clients and sponsors and friends. Farnan and Dermer. Call Zach. I called Zach to go to the ball game on Wednesday, and he's like, AC, it's 85 degrees. So I'll call Zach. Not when it's snowing. I'll call him when the weather's good to go to a ball game. I almost called this guy. This guy's up in Philadelphia. I had actually reached to him last week because I knew about this jersey thing with the Ravens. He is the artist extraordinaire and logo. What do you want me to call you, dude? Teacher, lecturer,
Sports branding
author?
expert, Nestor.
Todd Radom is our friend. And he hangs in Philly, up in Fishtown. We get cheesesteaks sometimes there. By the way, I was with Dick Girardi the other day. We're both mutually pissed off about the horse racing situation with the Preakness and the Derby and blah, 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 and Laurel. So I know we did have a cheesesteak together up there. Open invite for you and Girardi and his best buddy, Marlo. If you want to come down and get a crab cake at track down here, the spa in Timonium, I'll take you to Costas. But, dude, I came so close to texting you on Tuesday. But, like, you go to All-Star games and World Series and games in Japan and, like, do all this stuff. Like, I figured you didn't really care about a fourth row seat behind the dugout at a meager Diamondbacks, Eduardo Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish showdown at noon on a Wednesday.
There's nothing better than going to a game, a meaningless game, probably at noon on a Wednesday with friends and maybe having a beer and enjoying the sunshine. That's a good thing. I would totally do that next
You're
time.
white as a ghost, dude. How would you do in a day like that? What would it's SPF 100?
I know a little SPF Irish or something.
All right, so you're patronizing me right now with that White Sox hat that you're
That's
rolling in
exactly.
with.
Well, come on.
I'm actually freaking sitting on my Aparicio jersey. So I grabbed this on the interweb. It still has the tag on it. I haven't really kind of worn it out of the house yet. But this is the 59 Go-Go Sox. It is in Mitchell and Ness, and I know you're in Philadelphia and you have a lot to do with that company as well. But this is the 59 patching on it, and I bought it because it's a 40, so I'm more of a 38, but because of Planet Fitness, of course, and my hot yoga routine. But it's a little large on me. I know it's not going to shrink, but like I got it on eBay. Some poor dude in Canada had it listed for like a year and a half, and I finally got to like a price I could live with. I paid Trump's $10 tariff, and I got this, and I haven't worn it out yet, but it's badass. I think I like it.
It's a great looking jersey, and those Mitchell and Ness, the old vintage ones at least. They'll last a lifetime. So you
That's
got a
not
good deal.
bootleg. That's legit. Like my
Yeah,
Tony
I'm saying
Flynn is one of my favorites.
the
Yeah.
more modern ones, if you want to look at it that way, because Mitchell and Ness is partially owned by fanatics these days, like everybody else.
I know you know all the politics of this. That's why I bring you
Yeah,
on.
but those flannel ones, they are bulletproof. They'll last a lifetime.
All right, look, man, I'm not trying to get you sideways with any of your partners or properties or whatever. I'm going to speak from my heart, and we're gonna have coffee. We're gonna talk coffee together. Todd Radom, show me your book. I want to let everybody know how effing legitimate you are. It's kind of like having Rasig on. Talk about your book, Beyond the Ballpark. I read it.
The
Yeah.
Ballpark and Beyond. So this is an illustrated celebration of baseball's rich history. It is the book that I was born to write, and I always say that, I love the culture of baseball both on and off the field. I've been fascinated about all of it since I was a little kid. I'm not a numbers guy, right? And in the Ballpark and Beyond, I kind of look at baseball through the lens of someone who's intellectually curious. Uh, What was it like to eat food at a ballpark in the 19th century, right? Who was the first man to ever ride in a bullpen cart? I've got a short chapter about the Oakland A's rings of the 70s, mustaches in baseball. There's Casey Stengel, Bob Watson. I've got mascots, all of it. I have illustrated, so I have 150 original illustrations, 75,000 words. I'm thinking about Bill Parcells
See,
here.
I think you're not a writer, but that's a lot of words.
It is a lot of
I
words,
mean, I
and I
think
am
if
a
you use an
writer.
art fart that would be ghostwriting, but like you're like a writer. Like writing's my first vocation, right? So the
Yeah.
AIification of my writing has been a wonderful thing for me over since the last time you and I've literally had a cheesesteak together. Like in the last 5 6 months, the AI part of my world, it's rocked my world in a Wonka kind of way that is allowed me to express my art, my vision, my thoughts, my strategy, all four quadrants of my brain that kind of work in a weird way where like most art people are like art or not writing, or you said you're not into numbers and math, but my dad was way into, I mean, I learned math by learning batting averages and division by earn run average, but I have a total art fart thing like you where
Yeah.
stadia design, you and I have been talking for half an hour before we even started about
Mhm.
how they've ripped the ballpark apart down here. Jan and Marie should have been the one doing it. But I honestly, I want you to educate me because, like in the old days, Dick Cass spoke to me, Larry Lucchino, the new modern world of the Katie Griggs and Sashi Brown. They don't need me or anybody. They can be interviewed by one of their intimidated employees on their website and talk about how the brand came together and sell me some bullshit like the wine companies do when I go out in Wilford Brimley charge, out in Napa, they have some story about the vineyard and the war and the family and the like. I'm not looking for the fiction about how Buca di Beppo was built when it's really just a brand with Italian food and they arrivederci in the bathroom. I,
Storytelling. It's the imperative of the
I want
moment.
the real story. I want the real
Yeah.
story because Sashi Brown alluded, and Luke told me this because I don't really listen to Sashi talking to his coworkers so much because I can't learn anything that way. The word was that Nike pushed on this with the Ravens that a year ago the Ravens pushed back and said no. So that tells me as an insider, Bishotti's extremely conservative. He's with the boat crowd, the golf crowd, the Trump crowd, the like gold-plated toilet crowd. That's who Steve is. He's with the Nestor's not a media guy anymore after 30. So, but Steve's super conservative, and Steve thinks of the Ravens as his right arm. I don't think he's ever going to sell. Like the more I dive into this is the definition of who he is at this point because it's not Aerotech or his money or whatever. He would not want what the Falcons have had the last 20 years, which is just mismatch. And an art guy like you calling him every couple of years and elbowing him about, we need lavender, we need lilac. No, we need violet. No, like we need purple punch. I would say Steve would have been the guy when this thing comes to his desk. If you ain't making Steve happy, Papa, you ain't changing your logo because he owns the team and he ain't talking to anybody but Renee. Maybe and she built the castle. So I know her taste. So for me, with this thing, give me the real rundown from art fart business, Nike, corporate league properties, because in the end, and I know you agree with me, this is kind of a nothing burger. What they did is very incredibly subtle. Nobody 15 years ago, they just would have released it and had a little thing for television. This was pitched as huge. I see it as small, but if you're the one drawing the lines, it's a big job, right?
Well, I mean, listen, let's separate the hype from the product, right?
Thank you. That's why
And
I
you
love you.
you just you just called it. If this was 15 years ago, it would be released. Maybe they'd have some small press release as opposed to a big event. And it's an evolution of what they look like. And you know what? It's okay. Like all brands evolve with very few exceptions in sports. The Yankees have always looked like the Yankees. Well, not everybody is the Yankees, right? So a little bit of cleaning up of maybe some 90s excesses with the shadows and details and simplifying things. Cut through all the clutter, cut through all the BS and the market speak, and you get an evolution of the brand. They still look like the Ravens. If you squinted and looked at this, you would see the late 90s, and that's not a bad thing. Now, listen to your point about the Falcons. Sometimes you'll see teams get in there and really want to blow things up and start from scratch. And
Well, the
listen,
NBA does it every minute, right?
NBA does it every minute, but the Celtics, the Lakers, they're going to paint around the edges. They're not going to be the name 10 franchises who do like blow it up and start from scratch. The Knicks aren't going to do that, right?
Well, I love the Astros and the Padres, but there've been too many blowups, right? In a general sense, but
And
that's on the baseball side.
they're relatively new markets that you have opportunities to perhaps experiment in ways that you can't do in Boston or I don't know, name a couple of other places.
By the way, I almost texted you Wednesday when I was sweating my balls off there with Rasig. And I told Rasig I was having you on. I was going to invite him on with
Yeah.
us. He does this really serious coffee thing at Zeke's Coffee every Friday morning. It's like church, and there's like 30 people that get together from the neighborhood. I've done the show from there. And I love Thomas, love you down at Zeke's making. So we just did the interview at the wrong time. He said 10 o'clock he could do. So I almost moved us, but Rasig sends his love. But
Next time, and love back to him.
I'm with him, and I'm above the Diamondbacks dugout, sweating my balls off. And the
Yeah.
night before, they had worn Diamondback, and I looked,
I saw them in Philly on Sunday. They wore those.
but they were wearing Arizona on a Wednesday
Yeah.
afternoon,
Yeah.
and I remember when Buck brought in the purple and the mountains and the pinstripes. Those are still their best jerseys. The Luis Gonzalez early, Randy Johnson. They went through all of these different incarnations. They are the ultimate modern shit brand to me. Like, they don't know what they are. If I went to the stadium, there'd be 15 different colors around. There's been no need for any of it other than selling stuff, I guess, to whomever was there. I don't. It feels to me like some guy like you, an artist guy, one of you art guys, is pushing them all the time, or Nike, or the money, or the new team president wants to sell stuff. I don't know this thing. And listen, I have no love lost with Sashi Brown, 1-31, and how I've been treated like a rag doll by these people. But I thought there would be much more shakeup to sell much more stuff, because I look at this, and if whatever it costs, I'm like, I have something that really looks a lot like it. And you mentioned shadows, like that's the art part that I really want you to get down with, because they didn't do much but pull the gold out for me. Like that they made it more homogenized, not more jazzy. I thought they were going to go the other direction.
Well, a couple of things. Let me back up a minute and say, yeah, I'm the art guy, but Nestor, I'm a guy who builds brands. I want to create something that hopefully has an opportunity to be around for 20, 25 years. I did the Angels in 2001, going into 2002, and whatever that franchise is and why ever it's still around, it's still around. It stood the test of time. I don't want to create something meant for planned obsolescence and that is going to be replaced in 3 years if I can help it. So when I think about the Diamondbacks, I think about 2016 or so, and this was so long ago in so many respects. You might not even remember it, but they had these very, very dark gray road uniforms, charcoal black
I
almost, right?
remember that. Yes.
Yeah, and they had this gradient design going down
Like
the side.
Goldschmidt wore that jersey, right? Like in
That's
that
right.
era. Okay.
It looks like they stepped in a packet of ketchup or something, right? And Nike said this is going to be every team is going to be wearing this within 3 years. Disappeared like a fart in the wind, right? So anticipating trends and trying to shove trends down consumers' throats and teams for that matter is ill advised. So here's the thing. I think when the Diamondbacks kind of went to something simpler, is what I'm going to call it. What they're wearing now, they added turquoise. I kind of like that. It looks like the Southwest to me. It's a contrasting color. They don't lean into it so hard that it feels wrong, but it's very devolved. And we are seeing this with the Ravens. We saw this with the Washington Commanders just the other day. We saw it with the your Houston Oilers, excuse me, Tennessee
Oh
Titans.
my God. Like
Everybody's getting simpler because we are correcting excesses that don't necessarily look good while viewing a game on a small mobile device. And it's kind of back to basics in a lot of ways. And you know what? That's not a bad thing.
Well, you mentioned the Diamondbacks and them having that sort of that Sedona color of the green. Like that was in their original logo that Buck brought to them a million years ago with Colangelo and that, Garagiola and that group. Like I saw them and I'm thinking they're like unrecognizable. They're not distinguishable. They've never distinguished anything because they've never stuck with anything long enough. And that's the ultimate mistake of where Bisciotti, being ultra conservative as a human being, wouldn't come in here and want to screw up a team that's won 2 Super Bowls, that's had Ray Lewis, that has Lamar Jackson, that they need to run around in their underwear or pajamas. And
Yeah.
so for me, the marketing side of them bringing the PSL holders to Merriweather to really F with the Commanders, right? Like that part of the event being closer to Washington than to Baltimore leads itself to them really trying to begging for younger people to fill the seats that I got thrown out of by Chad Steele. I was a PSL holder forever. And Luke and I did comment that like they had an event. Now for the Ravens this year, new coach, new coordinators, new everything, like all of this new, getting rid of Harbaugh and what that was. They brought back, every Todd Heap and Peter Boulware's a dear friend of mine. He showed up on my Facebook this morning, his pictures. Pete, you got to go landscape, not portrait. She cut somebody off over there on the left. So for me, that kind of night and fan enthusiasm and coming out and having current players and cheerleaders and that's awesome. That's great. But
Yeah,
you
you're part of
promised
something
me,
bigger than yourself. You're part
yeah,
of this heritage and legacy that goes back a generation
but you
now.
brought me that it was going to be this grand opening, and it was just sort of like a small remodel. You know what I
We
mean?
love
Like,
hype. We love hype, Nestor.
yeah,
They
and
have
that's
to
the
cut
part that I
through.
can't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
down with because I'm like, oh, you sold me on I can't wait. It was sort of like a Geraldo going into the vault in Chicago.
Al
Remember that?
Capone. Yeah,
Yeah, right. We
yeah,
all
yeah.
remember that. Todd Radom's my guest. I love him, and I've been talking a lot. I really want to get you more out of you because I'm like about the jerseys. But in the end, I got accused of hating the jerseys when I said it's a nothing burger and I'm okay with it. And I'm really okay with it because it wasn't dramatic. And Luke and I were talking about all the drama that Nike could bring to the Oregon Ducks and a flying bird and a purple sheen. And I brought him all the stories of David Modell and I going back and forth about the Kiss bird and them needing a purple helmet in general. So to me, like the more I look at it, I'm like, it's fine, but I miss the gold. That's all I would
Yeah.
say. And you would say those are the
Some nice
shadows, maybe, as the
contrast.
artist.
Yeah, some nice contrast that you've left behind there. But listen, you've got all this brand equity built up with multiple Super Bowls and again a generation of history. And I love the fact that in the case of the Ravens, I can again squint a little bit and I could see that inaugural team that arrived from Cleveland. I could see Super Bowl champions. I could see great players. And there's a through line visually that connects the very first year to today. It's no different in a certain sense than the Green Bay Packers for real, although they wore blue at one time, but I digress. You have all this hard earned brand equity that you've built up. Unless you really are in need of blowing the whole thing up and starting from scratch, why would you do that? And they didn't need to do that.
Todd, because you're you, and I'm just trying to be, without being flippant. I know what you do for a living. I have been in Rasig's basement watching a real artist do art all of my life. Some of my best friends are artists. You're a friend of mine now, but I don't know how you work, right? And I know you probably had a pencil and wrote on, drew Pink Floyd logos like I drew Styx logos on my Rush when in 1979. I don't know how you work today, right? Like I mentioned AI and writing and this and that. And obviously I came from hard metal type at a newspaper and writing on VDTs to being able to self-publish and all of this modern stuff. I don't know how a guy like you that's your age, my age, our age, who came from drawing in pencil. I mean, Rasig used to bring his artwork in with the orange cutouts with the X-Acto knife. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Old
What was that?
school.
What was that called? It had a foil. It had a name.
Oh,
It was plastic.
the Ruby Lith,
Yes, thank you, Ruby Lith.
old newspaper
So,
stuff, right?
so I've watched artists, John Massey, my dear friend John Camejo. I'm going to have a Budweiser with John Camejo for the Yankees. So I've been around all these people, and I've watched artists draw. Back when I worked at the paper, I loved all the art guys. I used to hang in the art departments. How I know them all these years. Versig, all that. I'm thinking you work with this these days, right? Like a mouse and a screen and software and different things. So I'm not being flippant. I really want to be honest with you. And if I came up and The
Come
laws were
over.
different, and I sat up on your deck, and let's say we had a cigar together in Philly, had some drinks together, and I walked down into your laboratory where you're sitting right now, where you've created. Brag on yourself. How many Super Bowl, like what? Tell everybody like how serious a guy you are, even though I'm treating you like we're just having coffee.
Well, we're friends, and I've been in the business of branding for sports, for teams, uniforms, events for 35 years. I started doing this when there were very few people doing it. So yeah, I've created the logo for Super Bowls, for World Series,
You've done a
for
book on
teams,
hockey, right? So
leagues.
there's no like Whalers logo or old Vancouver Flying V. You've done it
On my
all.
wall, I've got a Whalers logo right there.
Yeah, I mean, so you're like, so here's what I'm asking you. If I bought the Ravens, or if
Yeah,
Bisciotti were smart and didn't have some guy like Sashi Brown running the team, and he and I were still smoking stogies at the Biltmore, he still cared about the team and the city the way he cared about it at once when he took me out to smoke stogies with Jim Irsay and try to get the Ravens records back. That really happened at the Biltmore. It took an hour and a half, and it was a fascinating conversation between me, Jim Irsay, and Steve Bisciotti for 90 minutes about Johnny Unitas's records and Lenny Moore too. So if Steve trusted me and I trusted you, and Steve said, I'm going to redo the art. I know you know this Radom guy. Can you get him down here? I'll shoot some pool in my office. He had a pool table and famously in the office out at the Art's old office.
yeah,
So if I came down, he'd have a scotch for you, whatever, Orange Crush. And he took the logos and put them in front of you. And it was just you and me, no Nike, no Roger Goodell, no, just what would you do? Like I see the end result of the jerseys with the helmets and they
yeah,
put bodies in it and they send you the sheet. What's that called? The final shot, whatever they give to the media, right? Whatever the Ravens have on the front of their website of the
yeah.
the thing, right? That's the end product of the art, right? Now, I'm going to be a little flippant and tell you that I redid a kitchen recently. And I did a kitchen 25 years ago in my old place where I lived here. And beautiful guy, Donahue and the Kenwood Kitchens people. And like they had a little computer back then and he free-handed it. It was like drafting class, like literally Tom Pless's class, and we would draft everything out. And 3 years ago, after COVID, I'm not bragging about this, and I do hate the Falcons branding, but I went to Home Depot and there was a dude there. My son works in an adjacent company with Home Depot. My son knew him. We sat on a computer and he showed me a million ways to put my kitchen. He made it walnut. He made it avocado. He made it white. He made it off white. He made it ivory. He made it black. He made it green. And he said, the only thing I can really get right now is dovetail gray. And like, that's what you're going to have to do if you want it now. And I'm like, everything's going to be gray. So I didn't think, but like, measurements, cutouts. Do you want a spice rack? He did all of this in 30 seconds and
Yeah.
developed my kitchen, printed me a picture, and it's exactly what my kitchen looks like. It's exactly what my kitchen when my builder came in. Like, so I've done these kinds. I'm not a complete idiot when it comes to all of this, but I am an idiot where Steve Bisciotti and I and you concocted something and you and I were sitting and having a drink and I went down to your office that you where would you start with the Ravens? And I'm being really honest. If I gave you this
Yeah,
job, I don't know if you'd make $1 or $1 million or $1 billion or
somewhere in between.
some right, exactly. But you are hireable. Steve can afford you. You're the kind of guy in the same way that the Orioles, and I'll get onto that later about how they effed up the entire notion of their stadium by not hiring Canopy and Janet Marie from a vision standpoint of what it was and what it needs to be. But like I would hire you. I mean, but you might piss me off if I was a conservative owner and I'd have to tell you all this stuff. And you'd be like, all right, well, you are the
Nestor,
customer,
how
you're the
many
client.
aren't most owners very wealthy conservative white guys, right? I can't tell
I
you
think
how
that is the
many.
subset. Yes. Having
I
met them
think,
all.
I can't tell you how many owners I have met, interacted with, whatever, who basically are, I'll generalize here and I'll say they're Wall Street guys who want to look like the New York Yankees, right? They want to look like $1 million. They want to smell like the pinstripes. You very seldom have mavericks in that position, literally Mark Cuban, right? Who are going to shake the world and do something completely radical. So here's the thing. Let's say you have that meeting. We get that meeting. We're smoking stogies. We're playing pool. My first question always to someone in that position is why? Why are you doing this? What are you thinking about? What is your brand perception in your mind right now? It's strategy. It's not necessarily making pretty pictures because there's a strategy about who you are, what you want to be, how you want to portray yourself to the world, and hopefully what this looks like again 20 years from now, 50 years from now, after we're long gone, right? You don't want to have to redo this in 2 years. I did a job a couple of years ago, Nestor, for a Korean baseball team. Spoke with a very powerful, wealthy Korean owner of this team, a nationally known figure, a guy with a lot of wealth, a lot of and great guy. Really had a great vision for this, and he trusted. So it's a collaborative conversation. Who are you? What do you want to be? What's wrong with where you are now? And you've got to work through that. And you've got to build something in this case that, listen, you know this, your listeners know this. Sports logos are different. We get them tattooed on our bodies. But more than that, they
Especially
need
in
to work,
Philly.
especially Philly. I saw something in the Inquirer the other day about a guy who had like a gritty on his bald head, like gigantic on the
And
back of
Gritty
his
didn't
head.
exist 6 years ago. Now that they're in the playoffs, they're gonna have they greased the poles in Fishtown already or no? I'm just
Not yet.
not
Yeah,
not till
let's wait a
June.
couple
Not
of
till
weeks
June.
and see if they make it past Pittsburgh, right?
Be a lot of
You know.
ugly beards in Philadelphia. A lot more ugly beards in Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, it's all to say that there is a disciplined process that is involved with this, and there are so many people who are stakeholders who have their fingers in in activating these logos and uniforms. You want to make sure that everybody has what they need, that it looks good, and again, for me, hopefully it'll stand the test of time. A very different test than that of a City Connect uniform, for example, that is meant to come and go. It's all about planned obsolescence.
I'm going to ask you this sensitively because I don't know the answer to this. And David Modell and I fought famously about this 25 years ago. And he and you'll never hear me say a negative word about David ever because I love David. He never lied to me. But I always say that because a lot of people have lied to me. David Modell never lied to me.
I've never
But
lied to you.
he and I fought about the Kiss Bird and full disclosure, when the sickle bee happened, which has always been awkward left to right to me, just from an art
Yeah.
perspective, on the other side of the helmet, it always looked wrong when the helmet's facing left. And but the bee was disputed with the art and the lawsuit and all the things that went on, pissed David off to no end because David thought the guy was full of it. David was adamant that he did not steal that logo. He died that way. He would never have lied to me. If it was borrowed, stolen, if somebody on the inside found out about it and presented it to him, he wouldn't have had any problem, but he wasn't going to accept that it was stolen ever. So he said to me, we're not gonna play football under a disputed marking. I literally the words he said to me. And they came up with this new thing, and he told me how he came up with it and the B. And they were very sensitive to the Orioles not wanting anything to do with Baltimore, Katie, and everybody that's the real history here of the trauma is that the Orioles ran away from Baltimore. Angelos refused to put Baltimore on anything because of the DC connection until he stole the Masson money. So at that point, David leaned into the crest having the state and city on it, Baltimore, Baltimore B, Baltimore, not R, Ravens. So that was his mojo at the time. And they presented the logos, and the team would have been called the Americans had David had his way. That's what he wanted to call them. He wanted to put a train and the B and O, and like he was into that. And then there was a point where the Ford Motor Company, there was something going on with the word Mustang, that the Ravens could have been the Mustangs, and a Ford sponsorship it was sort of a forward thinking pitch I think David had for stadium rights. Hey, let's go logo rights, Mustangs, give me 20 million a year, we'll be the Mustangs, right? So like David was thinking like that. That didn't happen, and they put it in the Baltimore Sun, which was a big deal then, not a right wing rip sheet at this point. But back then, it was, I had worked at the Sun. It was legitimate. They had a legitimate poll, and Ravens won by a billion because of Edgar Allan Poe. It had the bird. And David was like, hey, if they want Ravens, fine. Art Modell's middle name was Bertrand, and in Gaelic it means raven. You can look that up. It's honest to God true. And that freaked David out, and he's like, we're the Ravens, meant to be. So David fell into all of that, lived in the city, heard all the buzz, saw the Orioles going into the hole. Then they won the Super Bowl, but they won with the new markings, which were new. The week that the poll happened in the Sun, I was vacationing. I was young and single in Jamaica. And I just thought the Kiss face, to the people I talked to, the Kiss face was going to win, was going to win, was going to win. There was no doubt it was going to win. And I came back off a vacation, and the sickle head bird thing happened, and I shat upon David to no end. I said, David, you picked the wrong logo, dude. Like, what are you doing? I don't even care what the poll said. You picked the wrong logo. But they really did pick the Sun logo. I don't think there was anything fishy or whatever, and they did what they did. But that's still the logo they slapped on the helmet the other night. I mean, I thought they were doing radical things, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what worried me is that, well, it has been 25 years, and maybe Steve went and bought the other logo back because he liked it. And I'm thinking, this is really going to come down to what Steve likes at the end of the day. But Steve's going to say, hey, Sashi, what do you think? Chad, what do you think? And I'm thinking, like, this is the sensitive part. Who's in on these meetings other than Mr. Big? Like, who else sits in that South Korean baseball meeting? Is it the team president, the brand leader? Does it have to have a female? Does somebody have to be black, young, white, old, purple? You know what? I don't
Yeah.
know, because at the end of the day, it does feel like the billionaire that owns the team ain't going to let them run around in their pajamas unless they're pajamas that he likes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question, and the answer is it's going to vary by team. So, if to name a name, George M. Steinbrenner was design, overseeing a rethinking of the Yankees logo, which he would never do, I would suspect that it would just be him making that decision. Some
There's a case
organizations,
where there is no meeting because he doesn't want to change it.
well, if you remember those turn ahead the clock logos or uniforms, and I know you do, Nestor, from 1999. The Yankees refused to participate, and it may be apocryphal, but supposedly Steinbrenner said, "We're wearing our uniforms of the future right now. Thank you." Like they just opted out, right?
See,
Which makes sense.
I've always liked the Ravens uniforms. You and I have had a
Yeah,
long
I do
conversation about the
too.
Kiss Bird when they actually wore it a couple years ago, and they wore it too small, and we talked about all of that. And I think I told that story, but like this, um, I didn't get a chance to jump on the table for the Kiss Bird years ago. But the one thing I admitted to Luke, and I think you and I've talked about this, whether privately when we've been together or even on the air, maybe not even on the air, because it's like I never thought the Ravens were going to change their logo for us to have an actual conversation about this.
Yeah,
But I didn't love their white. I love white on white. I loved it on Burt Jones. I love white on white. Peyton Manning, even, it brings me back to, but the white on white that the Ravens wore in Super Bowl 35 that became iconic to Ray Lewis and Rod Woodson, and like,
yeah,
Jamal was back the other night, all that. I thought there wasn't enough purple. And I thought their helmet being purple was a mistake, or
yeah,
being black was a mistake at the time. And I thought they're not purple enough. And I said this to Luke, and I mean this from my soul. I was with the players in and out of the locker room at that period of time. And when they would sweat through the jerseys, fourth quarter, the jerseys looked black. And if you would have talked to David about that, David would say, "I like that. I ordered that. That when that purple gets wet with Tony Saragusa's sweat, that thing looks like a bird. I can see the cigar. It looks like a bird with a purple sheen." And he would have a few F bombs in there because he was delightfully profane. And he loved that. And I'm like, it's too dark, David. From up the upper deck, you look like you're wearing a black helmet and black on white. There's no purple. There's not enough purple. Put some purple pants on. We ain't wearing goddamn purple pants. I'm wearing purple pants. Like, I could hear him. We'll look like Barney. Like, I like, so there's a point where that was the owner then. Steve is the owner now, and different and in whatever way, but Steve has accepted what David delivered and hasn't changed much on it because he has respect for everything you're talking about in the brand. And I guess Sashi and Chad and whoever's in that meeting has to, I know the way that works. They're all going to genuflect as they do to Steve, Mr. Bishotti. And I don't know how it came down. This is a several year process though, right? Like, when it
yeah.
comes to somebody like do you present 10 looks, 3 looks, you have a meeting and say, we want to get rid of the gold, get rid of the shadows? Because when I've looked at logos, and I'm big into logos, I always say, give me 5 looks, man. I want 5 different ways to do it to start with, to give me a basis. Don't
Yeah.
give me your one and only. That would be my
No, that
directive
doesn't
to.
happen. That does not happen. And let's be clear. If we're talking about redesigning a logo as opposed to making a couple of tweaks on a uniform, it's a far more involved process. In an ideal world, I would like to put 5 or at most 7 options out there because it could be too confusing. And you want to be able to defend what works, what doesn't, what can be mixed and matched. And that would be color, it would be typography, it would be angles, it could be line weights. I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds with this stuff, but redesigning a uniform, the tweaks that the Ravens just unveiled is kind of like, here it is without the drop shadow. Here it is with gold. Here's a different shade of purple, right? Also, I'm just going to say, Nestor, Ravens is a great name. It really is. It's a badass bird. There's that Baltimore connectivity that you talk about. The colors are very distinctive, right? In a certain kind of way, the Toronto Blue Jays are like that, except it's not as badass of a bird,
Well,
right?
that's why we were afraid that they're going to come in and Oregon Duckify it or Atlanta
Yeah,
Falcon it. And I'm thinking that,
don't cock it up,
yeah, I like there's nothing wrong with it. And it's for
yeah.
me, they don't look as good as the ones did yesterday to me. Like,
But you'll
and
get used to it. And here's the thing, Nestor, and you know this. When you get memories that are attached to these uniforms, and hopefully you give them the runway to, go and run. It's like raising a kid. Put them out into the world, have the confidence that you've done what you could to allow them to spread their wings like a raven and prosper. You're going to have moments. It's not just guys on a runway or these dark Nike promo pictures. Things are going to come to life basically. And again, all brands evolve, and this is not a radical revolution. It's an evolution, and I think that's okay.
I wish Luke were here because he's such a nerd about this. He loves the uniform thing, and I do too. And we fight about it a little. Dude, you have no idea. We've talked about it. We go 15 minutes once the show's over talking about it, like, and because we're like, nobody wants to hear this. But for you, when you see this happen on Thursday night, you see the big party and all that. Luke and I discussed it a little bit this morning. It's different when it's Monday Night Football and the lights are on in the stadium. It's different
Yeah.
on a sunny day.
Human beings running around with these things, and they're stretching, and they're running in front of each other, and it's not just a static image.
All right, so I'm gonna offend you and everybody right now, which is usually my style anyway. By the way,
You offending people, get out of here.
Todd Radom's here. He writes books. He's an artist, a brand artist, a logo. He's my man. So Jackie Robinson. I'm gonna say something flip. I went to the game. So I was at the game. I didn't realize it was Jackie Robinson Day till it was tax day. It was like I got tickets from Curio. I almost called you, me, Rasig, Brian Poole, my buddy John Allen, rocker John Allen from Stone Horses. By the way, playing a free show at the Auto Bar next week. Come down. We get in, we sit down. The Diamondbacks are wearing their pajamas, right? We already went through that. Every guy on the back has a 42. I have no idea who they are. Every guy on the Orioles has a 42, but here's a big problem. The Orioles have everybody injured, and they called up some guy named Rodriguez and some guy named Sam Huff of all. They weren't even a football player. And they have the new scoreboard that they're bragging about. I'm there in these expensive seats on a hot day. They didn't have the lineup on the scoreboard. The left fielder misplayed the ball. Jonathan Robert. I don't even know who the hell these guys are. Wilson White. I don't even literally. They're not even on the scorecard. Nobody has their names on their backs. Everybody's wearing 42. Everybody in the stadium's white. Not everybody. 98% of the people are white. And I'm thinking to myself, you're keeping on with this Jackie Robinson thing, and I love Jackie, and I'm an Aparicio. I like old jerseys. I like the number 42. But I'm at the effing ball game, and I don't know who's playing. And that's a problem, dude. And it's a one-day problem, and it's a baseball, and it's not a problem because it's Jackie Robinson. How can you say anything bad? Jackie's saving the game, and we're going to get more African. And then I go, and it's not even doing what it was supposed to do. Certainly at the game, it didn't do for me, which is the first thing you just talked about, which is you got to be able to read the numbers and see the names on the back and know who's playing, especially in the NFL where cornerbacks are wearing single digits now, and linebackers are wearing zeros, and there's no more 53s and 52s and 78s and 84s catch the ball and like so for me at a baseball game in the fifth row, I spent the whole game with my dude saying, I don't even know who that is. And my phone in the sun, we couldn't see our phones. So, and we're sweating nuts. So sometimes these really well-intentioned things like Jackie Robinson Day, they don't play as good as you think they play when you're actually at the stadium and you're just trying to figure out who misplayed the ball in left field. And I would say the same thing for serifs on uniforms. And I was an old hockey guy with old farts up in the upper deck at the Civic Center. And we
Yeah.
looked down at the Hershey Bears. And if they did a redesign, I'm like, is that 16 or 18? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so there is a point where these need to be functional. And as Luke said, it's nice at Merriweather and I'm too sexy. I'm on the catwalk. And all the lights are there. But that's not the way these jerseys are going to play out on game day. And that's something that I, I, I hope that's sort of job number one of the artist. I think maybe I'm
Well,
wrong. Maybe job
listen,
number one
form
selling the
and
stuff.
function need to come together, and I think you would agree in the 90s, and we are both old enough to remember that very distinctly. You had too many outlines, you had numbers that didn't read. I think about a buddy of mine who was an NFL team photographer, and when the Jacksonville Jaguars hit the field with all those outlines, he's like, I can't read the damn thing. I don't know who it is. But here's the thing, as a spectator, and with respect to Jackie Robinson Day, baseball is a pretty static game compared to every other sport we've been talking about. And I think personally, what it sure seems like what you're talking about is a failure of scoreboards. And we've got all this dynamic
I
advertising
knew
going.
that. I knew the temperature.
Yeah, you knew the
I just didn't know who
temperature.
was playing left field.
You know where the countdown clock was, but you've got to have that information locked in a place where you always know where to find it. Particularly now with this, I was just about to make you bleep a word, but you know what I'm thinking. An S ton of ads and additional stats, which I like those stats, but make it easier on the spectator. And for one game out of 162 to honor Jackie
I
and
love Jackie, but
yeah,
I
I
was
know
at the
you
game and I
do.
was
I'm
confused,
okay
and
with
I just
that.
don't like.
Yeah.
I wish more African Americans. I wish more humans. I wish more Hispanics.
Yes.
I wish more ice candidates. I wish more
I
lacrosse
know.
players, more soccer play. I wish they all love baseball. They don't,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate because my last name's Aparicio, and I'm here trying to sell it on their behalf in one way or another. And one more complaint I have while we're getting off
Complain.
my lawn with Todd Radom, and I'm
Let's
gonna
go.
I'm at the game. The left fielder, I don't even know who he is, misplayed the ball. I was talking to Evan Brown from State Fair, who's my client and friend who was sitting in the shade, about how much more comfortable it was in the shade. And I'm this way and the game's that way. And I heard, ah! And I turn around and it was like the Bad News Bears. 42's chasing 42 into the gap to pick up the baseball that clearly had been misplayed. And I turned around and I'm like, what the hell happened? 2 runs are scoring. Everybody's up in arms. And then the $1 billion scoreboard that the people of Maryland paid for, that big scoreboard that they talked about all opening day, didn't show the replay because
Yeah, now
it didn't it would have embarrassed the left fielder and I
that's a
still didn't know his name.
choice. Right.
I
Right.
like
That's a
so I'm
choice.
thinking to myself, this is presentation in the ballpark,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, I wish I were home where I could watch the game right now. Like I could see the game better. They got a long way to go. Baseball here, but where you are, baseball thrives in Philly, right? Like and the logo doesn't change much, right? You either get Mike Schmidt or you Richie Ashburn, Kurt Schilling, 93, John Kruk. Like there's two. It's good, and they do the City Connects that look like pajamas, dude. Like it,
Nobody likes them here. And like I said, we were out there on Sunday, beautiful day, and I mentioned the fact that listen, this ballpark is now 20 some odd years old. They work on it every year. There are a couple of new features, nothing radical, but it's interesting. The Eagles are making noises about a new stadium in South Philly. The Sixers and Flyers have now selected the site in the parking lot as they play Jenga down in South Philly, where they're going to put
they're
their
gonna
new
they're gonna
arena.
they're gonna put a new arena up. Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 2030. Yep.
They just ripped down the Spectrum 5 minutes ago. I cried
Well,
about it.
they did, and the FU Center is a 30-year-old building basically, but the Phillies keep investing money in the physical plant every year, and it looks very fresh. The game experience is pretty good there. No complaints. I think
People
it's
know how
pretty.
to get there, right? Everybody's been coming to the same place for a
People
hundred
love that
years.
setup. And I got to tell you, I've lived here now for almost 4 years, and coming from New York, I always say to myself, who the hell would want to drive to a game?
You
I would
subway
not
there,
want to
right?
drive
From
to
in
it.
Philly, right? From North Philly?
What's that?
You subway from
Yeah,
North Philly?
absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Take the Market Frankfurt line, change underneath City Hall, change to Broad Street, and you're right at the ballpark. Very, very convenient.
My family, my Italian family, live right off of Tasker, right
Yeah.
off the subway. My grandfather's brother Frank Arena had a bakery, Italian bakery, in the little rocky neighborhood of the Marble Steps. And the first time I ever came to Philly was to see the Phillies in '81 with my dad, my Aparicio dad, and he knew Manny Trio, was playing for the Phillies at the time, and Bo Diaz as well, Venezuelan guys. And
Yeah.
so we went up to Philly and we stayed in Midtown, and I took the subway, and it was like this rickety, but I haven't been on that subway in 45 years.
It's the
I
way to
forget it's
go.
there. I just forget it's there. I know it's underneath when I'm driving Broad Street because I drive Broad Street a lot. I mean, I come in Center
Yeah.
City. I
Yeah.
mean, Barry Trotz and I had a couple of beers at the Four Seasons, and I drove down to the FU Center to see Brian Adams a couple months ago when the Predators were in town. So, like, I know my way around Rittenhouse, and I was up in North Philly at the Union Transfer, seeing that REM thing. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I come to Philly. I just don't take the subway. I come in on 95 and I boot into the FU lot and I put myself against the curb and I tailgate. I tailgate in front of the FU Center every time I
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I
People
park
love
in the
it.
same spot. I have my own. I have a Philly thing, man. I mean, I do.
Well, we're kind of Philly and Baltimore are like cousins, I mean, it is true. And I don't have a car, by the way.
Yeah, I
So
know. I know. I'll come pick you up. I don't
yeah,
feel
or
sorry for you if you're happy taking the subway. Take it, man. It's great.
yeah, it's 2 blocks away. It's not beautiful, but it gets the job done.
Hey, man, I love you. I know I'm going over time. You got to get work done. Todd Radom is here. Hold your book up. Promote your book. I want you. It's been a little while. Go ahead, please.
The Ballpark and Beyond. Publication date is May the 26th.
Oh, I
A
can't even
l-
get that yet. Hold on. I can't get that right now.
no, you could pre-order wherever books are sold
I was going to say, I don't have that book. Why don't I have that book? It's not really it's a
because
prototype.
I have
Okay.
one of the very few bound copies, but
Oh,
it is
okay.
a lushly illustrated,
That's coffee
loving.
table quality, dude. That's great.
Yeah, it's a
Congratulations.
nice little hardcover book. I've got my buddy Buster Olney with the Baltimore connections, writing the forward. Take a look for it. I can't wait. I can't wait to get out and sell it, do some signings, and it's coming.
Buster Olney was one of the first guests ever on my show in 1992 when he was the beat writer for the San Diego Sockers, traveling to Baltimore to play the Baltimore Blast. And he came into my studios on 5 Light Street in 1992, and he became the Orioles writer soon thereafter. But nonetheless, love you, Buster. See, I'm happy when the Vermont guys do well. You know what I mean? Because my wife's
It's
from
a
New
good
Hampshire.
place.
Todd Radom, he does art and logos and is my friend and eats cheesesteaks with me and goes to baseball games and yucks it up even though I run over time. Back for more. We're Baltimore Positive. Stay with us.